You're listening to the Jimboy Star podcast, episode 65, titled, We've Been Skyrimmed, guest starring Dungeon Master 201. Welcome everyone, this is Jimboy Star, and this is the Jimboy Star podcast, and this particular episode is a episode that I've wanted to do for quite a while, and it's about the video game Skyrim, and I have with me from YouTube, Dungeon Master 201. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back on the air with you. It's been about a year since I last was on.
Oh, I think it's been way more than that, because when you were on, I was still as part of the old website, and that has been closed down for a while. And
what happened?
That was there's a whole big thing on that, but people, you can listen to the episode that's specifically about the end of the website in the archives. You'll know it by the title. But in that case, when I first interviewed you, it was a basic Let's Play talk. This one is more specific. It's going to be about Skyrim, the video game. Now, the reason I have you on for this one is because
I just recently had done one.
You've done it, and I have to ask, like, Skyrim's known as a pretty long game. How long did it take you to do this? Let's Play?
I would say it took me a good, I want to say 9 months of recording. That's about like 200 some episodes if you include the DLC, the Soulstime DLC, the Dragonborn DLC, and that's what it's called. It took me about like 9 months worth of time to record and eventually edit it all.
Now, let me ask you this. When you played, how many times have you played this game?
Let's see. For this Let's Play, I used the PC version, but I've played it on the Xbox.
And so 2 times is...
I would say I've played quite a bit of the Xbox version. It's the first time I was using the PC version, and part of it was just for mainly quality purposes because I was having a bit of issues getting my console capture card to work properly, so I went with the PC version for the recording.
Mm. All right, so but even before you actually did recording, like, and the reason I ask this is because
I've been through the game probably like 2-3 times at least, because just from the length of it, it's just one of those that is hard to play at multiple different times.
No, absolutely, and the reason I ask that is just so everyone has an idea of your knowledge of it. Myself, I've only played the Xbox 360 version, and I played through that twice. I did play the Dragonborn DLC. I'm not sure if I did the other one. The Dragonborn name sounds very familiar, so that's why I know I did that one.
Yeah, Dragonborn was the Soulstime Back to Morrowind kind of DLC. The other one was... I can't remember the name of the other one, but it has to do with vampires.
Yeah, okay, you know what? I think I did do that one, because I do vaguely remember that as well. So one thing that I consider this game as far as my own little category here is it's kind of and I always joked about this around the time I was playing this too. I consider it a lose your life kind of game. And what I mean by that is, you've already mentioned how long, it's so long.
I don't think it's as bad when it comes to lose your life, because the first thing I think of whenever it comes to lose your life is Warcraft, not Warcraft,
sure.
World of Warcraft. Yeah, that's what I think of whenever anyone says lose your life type of game. There's one that is definitely a lose your life type.
Sure. I mean, for me, though, I think at that point, I was finding myself pretty much playing this game outside of work, like almost the entire time that I wasn't in work. So I guess maybe in my instance, it was a lose your life game. And to be fair, there's so many things to do. I remember joking with my friend Ray, who had the game first before me, and every time I would go to his place, I'd be amazed to see, like, oh, you've put, 28 hours into this game. Then I realized after I started playing, I was like, okay, I see where the time goes now. All right.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those where you can, like, lose track of time. I usually kept, like, a timer with me so I don't overdo it. And it's like, if I happen to be in the middle of something, I'll go ahead and finish the recording, but it's one of those things that it just isn't worth losing a lot of time over. It's not worth, no game's worth, like, you being up until, like, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and you're struggling to try to get yourself to work and stay up the next day. It's not worth, no game is worth staying up that late for.
But so another question I have, going back to the Let's Play a little bit here, and in a minute we're going to get to the plot. And folks, this is kind of going to be a format like the episode I Am a Dragon Warrior, which I did with Kenshin1913, another YouTuber, where Dungeon Master is going to go into the plot, give us specifics, and I'll add in what stuff I remember. Same format as that, pretty much. But going back to the Let's Play, what made you decide to do this as a Let's Play? Because you knew from playing the game how long it would be.
Well, it was kind of obvious because I also did Oblivion, where I went from, that took me a good chunk of time as well, and eventually I'll do some of the earlier ones, but I just figured might as well go ahead and do a Skyrim run through since I did Oblivion not too long ago as well, about a year before I did Skyrim.
How would you compare, time-wise, the length of Oblivion to Skyrim? I've never played Oblivion.
Well, time-wise, I think Skyrim is a lot more larger than Oblivion, but at the same time, I think Oblivion is quite long itself. It does have its flaws, but it is a much earlier game than Skyrim, so some of that stuff can be overlooked, and I sometimes feel that there are certain things that Skyrim could have taken from Oblivion, such as I'll take the Dark Brotherhood quest line.
Sure.
Or, for example, in Oblivion, the Dark Brotherhood quest line, you actually got rewarded for doing things stealthily. And the Skyrim, it's kind of like you just bash your way through from start to end. And one of the quests in Oblivion for the Dark Brotherhood is you have to make your way into the prison and kill a prisoner. I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone, even though it is about I think like 8-9-year-old game. But you get an extra reward for making your way in without killing or without getting noticed. Or
sure.
I think it was without killing any of the guards. So there was like that stealth element that was in there, and many of the Dark Brotherhood had a lot of stealth element in Oblivion, whereas in Skyrim, the stealth element is just completely thrown out for the most part, unless you want to count the cook, kill the king quest in Skyrim, but I really wouldn't count that.
All right, so like I said, you're gonna go through the plot with me, and again, I've never played anything before Skyrim, so like Oblivion or any other previous one. Mostly because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Oblivion and all the other ones, you have to be in a first-person mode. Is that correct?
Oblivion, no, you can be in a third person, but it's a bit iffy. It's been forever since I've played Morrowind, and I don't remember if you can be in first or third for that. And again, I had that for the original Xbox, so I don't remember the earlier ones too well.
So that's my mistake, because I mean, that's a big thing in games that I kind of don't like, that I know a lot of people do, and I just cannot play as a first person mode. I don't like games that work like that. That's why for this one, when I originally had thought it was just a first person, then I saw my friend Ray play the game. I'm like, oh, I could do this as long as I can see my guy completely. That's fine. So also, as you go through this plot, feel free to mention, like, because you played both the PC and the Xbox version, if there's any significant differences.
Well, there really isn't that much of a difference. The only main difference for the PC is, well, if you have a good computer, graphics can be a bit better, and you can throw in all sorts of mods. In my playthrough, I used 2 mods, which didn't really add much to the story. One of it was being able to have a different beginning.
Okay.
The other was the infamous Sophia mod.
Okay.
Which adds like a follower that's fully voiced. And it has a lot more character than any of those that you would find going through the main game.
How do you feel about the follower system in this game? Because sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. Like, I feel like sometimes the character gets lost.
I feel like the Sophia mod that I used was actually pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
You get on a horse, she'll summon a horse of her own and get on. I felt like the mod for the Sophia was actually it was a lot better than any of the base vanilla game mods. Even a bit better than Serana, the vampire girl that you get in the
DLC.
Yeah, the vampire
I remember her. Yeah. Okay, so let's get right into it. Go ahead. Let's start talking about the plot.
Okay,
I did recently learn, which I didn't know, because unlike the Dragon Warrior Dragon Quest series, not that familiar about this particular series, but apparently this is after Oblivion.
It's about, if I remember correctly, lore-wise, it's about 200 years after the events of Oblivion. So, as I said, one of the mods I used allowed me to have like a different beginning, which I decided to go with an extra house. But going with the main story, if you're going to go without using any of the beginning altering mods,
sure,
you're somehow, as in all Elder Scrolls games, somehow a prisoner, somehow caught, reasons, probably trying to cross the border. However it is you got caught, you're off to go and get your head cut off, and in the wagon that you're in, you're tied, and you have some exposition, and you find out that the leader of the rebels is in the same thing, and someone then exclaims, if you're there, then we're off to be killed by the Empire. So you get there, you create your character, and then as they're telling you to go put your head down to get chopped off, a dragon comes, saves you. At this point, you don't know who this dragon is. And chaos ensues, and you're trying to escape being a prisoner. And as you're going through, you're kind of given like a tutorial type of thing where you're taught how to use various things such as lockpicking, magic, how to use your weapons. Then you go through.
Here's where we can get a jump off point to another discussion here, because that's what we're going to do. Break away from the main plot every once in a while when I think of something. Certainly, you can use your skill levels for a lot of different things. Like you mentioned, there's lockpicking now that gets introduced. There's alchemy. You can get persuasion that can...
I felt like alchemy was a lot better in Oblivion than it was in Skyrim. And Oblivion, you actually had to try to put various ingredients together to come with all sorts of potions. You could even put like various foods together and come with a potion. You actually had to use ingredients, unlike in Skyrim where you have to go to a table and then you're kind of told everything that is there. I kind of like the alchemy a bit better in Oblivion than I did in Skyrim.
And what about some of the other stuff? I mean, was there
I don't remember the earlier ones too well, as I said. Something that is definitely a difference from Oblivion from Skyrim is in the earlier Elder Scrolls games, your weapons overuse begin to degrade, and you would either have to repair them or you would have to go and find yourself a new weapon over time. Mm-hmm. In Skyrim, they never break.
Right. Now, how do you feel about, the whole forging, you could forge items? I mean, like it's this first town that that they have you go to, Riverwood, is pretty much your like
following
tutorial.
The main story. Yes, that would be like the first place that you would go, and most people probably would, and people that have played the Elder Scrolls games would probably go and do something else. But following the main story, yes, you would go there, and you're once again taught how to make items, make daggers, items, and I think that's something that for those that are new, which again I feel like the Skyrim was trying to cater toward new people, so I think that was something that was overall useful.
Mm. All right, let's continue on with the plot. Go ahead.
So from there, you learn a little bit about it. Then you're told to go and inform the I forget what it's called, the Earl of Whiterun, and from there you can make your way to Whiterun or go about some of the side items. There's a few quests or a few side quests that you can do in Riverwood, so you could go and take care of some of that. But following the main quest, you go and make your way to Whiterun, and then eventually you make your way up and you're stopped by one of the guards, and if I remember correctly, you have to do something in order to either bribe them or intimidate them in order to get into Whiterun to let the Earl know about the dragon that happened. Well, personally, that's like another plot hole right there. It's like, you got a big dragon, I'm guessing most of the people died, but obviously the leader of the Stormcloaks, which was in that wagon at the beginning of the game, would probably know something about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I agree. All right, so we're in Whiterun now, right? That's where we are storyline wise, because that's the if you're doing in order, if you didn't go and do any side quests, that's the next town, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
That would be the next town. Then you would go and inform the Earl about it, and I'm trying to remember if he has you do anything about that, because I went a completely different route in my LP, and it wasn't until much later into the LP that I went and did all that stuff.
Okay.
So once you go in there, and if I remember correctly, you are interrupted and told that there is a dragon attack, and you, along with some of the guards, would go out there and deal with the dragon. And this is another, I would say, plot hole, is because if you ignore that for a good chunk of the time, you won't see a single dragon attack the entire time until you go and do that event.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean,
once you run into this scripted dragon, then dragons will start showing up, because I want to say it was a good 40, 50 episodes before I went and did that.
Mm-hmm. And then I think, isn't this where you maybe I'm jumping ahead here. Isn't this where you also learn, like,
Yes,
the
it
shout?
would be, as soon as you kill the first dragon is when you get your first shout.
Mm.
And then the guards is like, "Oh, you're Dragonborn." After they see you absorb a soul, and then once you do your first shout, you're summoned by the Greybeards to come up and learn more about your dragon shouts.
I remember I was thinking. Now, here's where, after I did that and got the learned. Oh, you're the Dragonborn. I think it was a long time before I actually went to go see the Greybeards, and from what I remember, the reason is for some reason, I think I had a hard time finding them, and where in the world they were.
Yeah, they were on top of the fucking mountain along with every other. Like a good chunk of the quests are on top of the mountain, and you had to like climb your way up the mountain in order to, like, the tallest mountain that's like in the center of the map.
But I think also, like, I don't feel like anyone, if I can remember correctly, I don't feel like anyone actually like hinted, oh, they just said go see the Greybeards. Like, I knew where that was. I think that's like. I feel like that is one of the reasons why it took me so long to get there, and I wound up doing...
One of the things I noticed was that if you have the quest active, you'll have, like, the marker showing you where to go.
Although, and see, now, and this is on the Xbox, I do remember once or twice there was, like, one that you follow the marker and you're there, and maybe it was a side quest, but nothing's there. A good example of this was I did a quest. There was a side quest, and I feel like you had to go into a cave. Not a cave. You didn't have to go into a cave. It was like it's like a cave on the main overworld, but you wouldn't have to switch screens. If you can understand what I'm saying.
Cave on the overworld.
It's not a cave, but but it kind of looks like one. But anyway, you're supposed to kill, I want to say, a bear, and then get something from killing the bear, or whatever animal it was. It might not have been a bear. And I did that, and then the arrow still pointed to where it is, and nothing was ever done. Like,
yeah, I think that was like one of those that you had to like collect its pelt. So
yeah, but there was something specific to that character, though. Whoever I killed, because it's not like. I was able to kill another.
It might have been like a quest item, and you were supposed to talk to him.
Maybe, I don't know. Well, no, you definitely have to kill him, because that's definitely what I did. And then the arrow showed where whatever the item was that I had to get.
Yeah, I had a few of those issues myself, where I was like, "Why is it still pointing at this person? I killed him." I remember that was also another one of those Dark Brotherhood types of quests where you had to kill a specific person and then go back to the person that requested the killing.
Right. All right, let's continue.
I had a few issues like that as well, as where it would come just continue pointing at that person, and it's just one of those bugs that plagues Skyrim.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's continue with the plot and going to see the Greybeards.
Okay, let's see if I can remember. Once you get up to the Greybeards, depending on how many of the dragon words that you learn throughout your quests, presuming. So I'm just gonna. It's been a while since I've went straight for the quests, so This is a bit fuzzy myself.
Sure, and anything I remember, I'll certainly chime in and see if I can help you out.
So, presuming you decided to do none of the side quests, you go straight to the Greybeards. You're taught about the words, and then you're given another word that allows you to make short sprints from point to point.
Yep.
After you're taught a little bit of history, and then if I remember correctly, you're sent on a quest to find another dragon word, which I think continues on to either the the shout that you first learned from killing the dragon.
Mm.
And then I'm trying to remember more of the plot because I went all over the place in my LP.
Sure. I mean, I feel like the Greybeards did have you do something afterwards.
I do remember that, but I remember also having the shout that they required before I went.
You even up, so you didn't even have to go leave and come back. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Because you can go and collect as many of the shouts that you can, but they're just useless until you start collecting dragon souls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually looking it up now here, and it looks like it's a horn that they ask you to get.
Yeah, I think a horn?
Yeah, say the horn of Jurgen Windcaller in the marshes of Haljamarch.
Ah, okay. I think that was one of the... Because a lot of the quest items you can actually pick up well before you even activate the quest.
Mm.
So that's probably another one of those I probably ended up picking up somewhere along the my LP that I don't remember what it was for.
Right.
So that might have been just one of those that I picked up a whole bunch of stuff and I didn't have to leave and come back.
No, and for a Let's Play, that's probably the smarter way to do rather than spend footage actually just traveling and doing nothing but that. Absolutely. And this is going to be a discussion after we get through with the plot, is comparing like the fact that, yeah, there's a plot, but is the game really more about the exploration? But we'll get into that.
It definitely is more about the exploration, because I want to say maybe about 5 to 10% of the game is the main story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do know that amongst this whole main plot, there is also a civil war going on,
mm-hmm.
which you wouldn't even think anything about the civil war because of how peaceful everything is.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is eventually you can try to avoid the civil war as long as you can, but as part of the plot, if you don't take care of one of the sides first, you're eventually going to have to broker a peace between... This is a bit fuzzy because I took care of the Civil War before.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But I remember that you had to broker some peace where you had to trade territories between the Empire and the rebels
mm-hmm.
in order to advance the plot, in order to take care of the supposed dragon threat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we also at this point have met the main dragon, that Alduin. Is that how you say his name?
Alduin, yeah, because that sounds about right. You met him at the beginning of the game.
Well, yeah, that's true. You met him at the beginning of the game, but it's not... you kind of get the idea that he's going and reviving other dragons in different parts of this world.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that because I feel like there were a couple of dragon fights from ones that he revived.
I think there is a couple of more scripted dragon fights, which whenever I've just played through the story and didn't go up the mountain like I did in my playthrough, I almost always seem to have a dragon fight on the way up to the Greybeards.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. I don't know if that is random or if it's really scripted, but to me it felt like that one was more scripted than random.
Right, and then for a while I also remember that you do the person that had the horn, and I know that you've gotten it before anything. I believe it's Delphine. She joins you for a bit, and I believe it's someone else, but I don't really remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of them, but they're a group that is bent on destroying all dragons.
Mm. And you guys all go to a quest somewhere for the main story, in which I think he actually, your character, learns, I guess, what a Dragonborn actually is.
Well, in a way, they kind of do learn what a Dragonborn is. In a way, from the Greybeards, actually, they just want you to lead them and just kill all dragons, regardless of whether or not they're good or not.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's pick it to let's continue from where that was. They go on that whole group goes on a quest. What happens next?
I'm trying to remember what happened to that particular part of the quest next. They eventually, if I remember correctly, the next thing that would happen is in that main quest is you guys end up going to one of their old, I think it was one of their old bases, end up clearing it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually they find out about the dragon that the Greybeards are harboring, and they want you to go and kill it.
Right, yes, because isn't that like one of the things, like, oh, should we actually, why is the Greybeards having this dragon? Like, I remember being very surprised by that, and why that was not mentioned when I was talking with them previously.
Yeah, and eventually you end up going back to the Greybeards, and personally I didn't make mention of that. And at some point, I'm trying to remember the full plot of it, because in a way it's kind of forgettable.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember more about the side stuff than I do the main plot. As I said, it's a bit forgettable. But you do remember at some point you do eventually meet Parthenax, the good dragon.
Right.
One being held by or harbored by the Greybeards. Once you learn a specific shout, which I think you once again receive from the Greybeards, which allows you to clear the weather and make your way toward the top of the mountain, where you meet him and you learn a shout needed to fight Alduin. At some point, I do remember you also need to go on a quest to get the Dragon Scroll.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not the Dragon Scroll, the Elder Scroll.
Sure. And then, I mean, also, during all of this, I feel like, a lot of times and you're right, this is a game that's very hard to try to pinpoint plot, but this is where, like, you would go to all these different towns, because really the purpose of going to the different towns and doing these side quests is, I mean, yeah, a lot of them are optional, but also you need to level up your skills regardless. And this
eventually, yes.
Yeah, eventually,
but one of the things I do like is, well, one of the things I'm kind of iffy when it comes to the skills, because in previous ones you eventually worked on them, and in this you are kind of just given the stuff a bit. You do work on them, but at the same time, it's kind of a bit easier to understand than in previous games.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I'm trying to get across.
Sure. Okay, so you know what I think we're going to... Because it's very clear that both of us are, because everyone will play Skyrim differently and in a different order. So I actually just popped up a summary of the plot. I'm going to read through. That way we can kind of see what... I think I found out where we were at in trying to remember. But for the sake of time, I'm going to read through this paragraph. And then, you can comment or whatnot, and then, we'll talk about the side, maybe some of the side quests in the time we have. So,
okay.
I'm going to start from where we got when I found the horn. All right. So, the horn has been stolen. The culprit wishes to meet with the Dragonborn. The thief reveals herself as Delphine, Riverwood's innkeeper. Delphine admits that she set up the player in retrieving the Dragonstone. Delphine wants the Dragonborn to prove their power before explaining her actions, and they head to the village of Kinsgrove. where a dragon burial mound is supposedly located. Once there, the player and Delphine witness Alduin reviving a dragon from the burial mound to defeat the dragon. That must have been what I was thinking of when I mentioned before. Delphine later reveals that she is one of the last surviving members of the Blades, an order of bodyguards sworn to protect dragonborn imperial emperors, and before that, they were sworn to kill dragons. She explains that the Blades have been out of purpose for centuries with no dragonborn emperor, and now with the player character being the next dragonborn, the organization has finally regained its purpose. Afterwards, Malborn, who Delphine tells the player to meet at Solitude to helps the player infiltrate the Thalmor embassy near the city of Solitude.
That sounds about right.
The headquarters of the Aldmeri Dominion in Skyrim, to follow up on her suspicions about the Thalmor's possible involvement with the dragon threat. I don't even remember that. I didn't remember that Thalmor had any involvement in that. I don't remember any of that. While there, the player discovered that the Thalmor are searching for a man named Esbern, an archivist of the Blades Order. Then the Thalmor tell the player to surrender or they will kill Malborn. But Malborn attacks the soldiers, and the player has the opportunity to save Malborn, though it is not necessary. After escaping the Thalmor embassy, Delphine then instructs the player to locate Esbern, known to be hiding in the sewers of the Ratway of the city of Riften. All right, let's take a break.
That's right there is where you kind of have to start the Thieves Guild quest line. That's also another thing I kind of remember is the Thieves Guild quest is all right in this game. You eventually become the leader, just like in the Oblivion game, where you eventually become the leader of the Thieves Guild. But I felt like the rewards in Oblivion were a bit better.
Sure. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue reading. I'm going to do excuse me. I'm going to do the next paragraph, and then based on the paragraph, I'd like you to give, your thoughts on what you remember. If there's anything specific that you feel should be brought up, or something you liked or disliked about that part of the game.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. The player character accompanies the Blades in search of Alduin's Wall. I think that's what I was thinking of as well earlier, when I said they have to take him somewhere to learn something. A prophetic engraving located in an ancient Blades fortress known as Sky Haven Temple. While the Blades set up in the temple, the player character learns that the ancient Nords used a special theme against Alduin called Dragonrend, representing mankind's comprehensive hatred for the dragons, to cripple his ability to fly so they could engage him. To gain more information, the player meets the dragon. How did you say his name?
Alduin or Parthenax.
Parthenax, the leader of the Greybeards, who was once one of Alduin's most feared generals. Parthenax reveals that Alduin was not truly defeated in the past, but was cast into the currents of time by the use of an Elder Scroll. In the hope was that he would never reemerge. The player manages to locate the Elder Scroll within the ancient Dwemer ruin of Blackreach and uses it to peer through a window in time when Alduin was first defeated, learning the powerful Dragonrend shout to combat Alduin.
Yep, that sounds about right. And also, I do remember that same Elder Scroll was also used in one of the deities side quest as well.
And, the one thing that also I remember from now reading that is I thought it was weird that all of a sudden time travel was coming into play.
No, it was just more. I think it was more of an image of what happened instead of a time travel, because normally for most people that try to read the Elder Scroll, if I remember the history correct, for most it causes them to, if you just try to read it out right. I think it just causes you to try to or become blind because of what's on it.
Oh, okay.
But as a Dragonborn and them using the, I think it was a ritual, if I remember correctly, you went back or you saw images of what happened at that time.
Mm. All right, next paragraph. Armed with the knowledge of how the ancient Nords defeated Alduin, the player battles Alduin on the summit of the Throat of the World. Overpowered by the player, Alduin flees to Svingard, a Nordic afterlife. The player learns that Dragon's Reach, the palace of the Jarl of Whiterun, was originally built to trap and hold a dragon. The Jarl refuses to allow the player to utilize Dragon's Reach and possibly endanger the city if the civil war between the Stormcloaks and the Imperial Legion...
Yeah, that's another thing that was different from my playthrough and the overall synopsis, because in my playthrough, I took care of the Civil War long before I did that, so the Arl had no problem with me using his castle, I think it was.
Yeah.
For
the place
capturing a dragon.
That's interesting. All right. Yeah, so it was pretty much like, yep, nope, no problem. Whereas I guess if you didn't do that, you'd have to do other things too.
You would have to try to finish the Civil War before you can continue that. And you're like, nope, I have bigger problems
right.
to deal with.
With the help of the Greybeards, the player calls a council between General Tilius, the Imperial Legion's commander, and Ulfric Stormcloak, successfully calling for a temporary armistice while the dragon threat exists. If the Civil War questline has been completed beforehand, thus ending the war, the Jarl eventually agrees with persuasion, which is what you mentioned.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna do the. Do you have anything to add to any of that, or can
no? I think that's. I think that's overall. As I said, if you take care of the Civil War long before you do that, then a lot of that can just be skipped. If not, then you have to put the Civil War on hold until you go and take care of that.
Mm. All right. The player summons and traps a dragon named Odaving in Dragon's Reach, learning from him that Alduin has fled to Svangard through a portal located high in the Velati Mountains at an ancient fort called Skuldefn. This is quite the language that Skyrim has.
Skuldefn.
Odaving, impressed with the player's thumb and ability to capture him, agrees to fly the player to Skuldefn, claiming Alduin has shown himself as weak and undeserving of leadership over the dragon race. Upon arrival, the player fights their way up to the portal to Savangard.
Yeah, Savangard.
All right. Upon entering Savangard, the player travels to the Hall of Valor and meets with Yazgrammer, the legendary Nord, who, along with his 500 companions, drove the elves out of Skyrim. He informs the player that Alduin has placed a soul snare in Savangard, allowing him to gain strength by devouring the souls of deceased Nords arriving there. The player meets up with the three heroes of Nordic legend who defeated Alduin originally, and with their help, destroys the soul snare and defeats Alduin once more. Now, it's interesting because, to me, that sounds like the end of the game, or at least the end of the main story, but there's another paragraph. But before I go and do that, any thoughts on anything I just read?
I think it's overall from once you get to the capture the dragon and you go fight the Alduin, I think from that point forward, it's basically there's no deviation from that. So I think for most people, it's just how you go about it. And I do know a trick that if you save the poison from the Brotherhood questline, you can just put it onto your weapon and kill Alduin in one hit.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, you know why it gives me another paragraph? Because it's saying apparently if you did not kill Parthenax.
Parthenax.
All right, so if the player did not kill Parthenax in an earlier side quest, an alternate conclusion is given. I don't think I knew this. The player
I did.
the player returns to the summit of the throat of the world, in which Parthenex and several other dragons wait. Parthenex explains that even
And you're given like a.
What happened?
I was about to say, Parthenax gives you a whole explanation of the entire thing if you let him live.
Okay, so yeah, they are in no condition to celebrate, for he was once their ally and is still one of their kin. Having asserted his authority over many dragons, Parthenax declares that the remainder of the dragons will submit to the thumb, suggesting he wants to take Alduin's place as the leader of the dragons in order to teach them the way of the voice. I don't think I knew it. I don't know if I did any of that.
Yeah, as long as you don't kill Parthenax and tell the blades to go to hell, pretty much, you get that extra ending.
All right, so that was the main plot, and again, I feel that this game's more about the adventure than the actual plot, because as you're bringing up, and I do agree, the plot is definitely very forgettable. Well, that's not what you said, actually. You said, what did you say exactly?
I said it was, I did say it was forgettable.
Oh, did you? Okay.
The main story is kind of forgettable. It's one of those things that, unless you just played it and just played the main quest, you're going to forget about it mainly.
Mm-hmm. So, what is your... So, since we're both admitting the plot is a bit weak, what would you say are your favorite aspects of the game, then, when playing?
I would say all the extra stuff. I think the main thing that can come out of it is just the role-playing aspect of it, because I've seen a few other people do Skyrim where they just had like a role-playing on it, and they would mod the game to the point where they can... accompany to that story that they create. I think it's more of what you create out of it instead of just the main game of it.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that because we both talk about how long the game is and whatnot, do you feel that and we both played it more than once and gone through it more than once, does it have replay value? And I have to say, on my side, playing it a second time, I don't feel like it did. I did complete it a second time, and I was like, not very little has changed.
I'd say it has maybe a second replay just to do play or the work for the other side.
What do you mean?
Because you can play once working with the Empire, and then you could play it again with the Rebels winning.
Right.
But after that, it's, man, unless you decide to create a whole bunch of videos just creating your own story, and you're creating a role-playing type of story where you're just creating a story. But other than that, I don't think, just for the game, I don't think there is much there.
Yeah, which is very surprising, because I remember going into it thinking, oh, this is definitely something I could probably go through about 5 or 6 times. And then as I was going through the second playthrough, I was like, you know what? I think I'll finish this just to see if something is unlocked, because I beat it the first time already. But
as I said, the Dark Brotherhood, that was definitely weaker than the previous game. The Thieves Guild, I kind of felt it was a bit better in Oblivion. Mm-hmm. The Mages College, definitely a lot more to it in the previous, because it was just turned into a college instead of a guild in Skyrim.
I'm trying to think if there was any other groups that were missing, because ironically, from what I read, none of those groups were mentioned at all from the plot. Or the stuff that I read. So it shows you that there's so much more to do, outside of that main plot, that it's actually a little ridiculous. Like the fact that you can bypass most of these guilds. And
you can bypass about 90% of the game.
Yeah.
It's definitely a type of game that is more for exploration and doing other stuff and kind of ignoring the main game. I do also remember a minor side quest where you're collecting various, I guess you could say, overpowered masks that give you special abilities, such as being able to completely resist poison.
You know, I also didn't see anything about. There's this one quest I thought it was part of the main story, but I guess not because I don't think it was mentioned. Where you have to go confront some guy that apparently lives not in an igloo, but he's basically by himself at like the corner of the world. It seems like.
Yes, that's the one of the deity quests where you end up meeting that black blob. I can't remember his name. But that one particular deity does show up in the Dragonborn DLC.
Oh, does it? See, I don't remember too much about this. See, I remember stuff from the main game. I don't remember that much about the DLC. What's
the DLC is actually another 200 years later after the events of another DLC that happened in Morrowind.
Oh, okay. Do you feel that the DLC, and I don't remember how much it would have been, do you think that it was worth getting?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember. There was the Dragonborn DLC, which adds a whole nother area. Which, yeah, I think that would definitely be worth getting. The Vampire DLC, I can't remember what that's called. I would say that's also worth getting. And the third DLC, I think it's called the Homefront DLC, or where you get to buy and build 3 houses. Yeah, that's meh.
Yeah. What do you feel overall? You played the game twice, you know. What do you feel is your favorite, some of your favorite and least favorite, now that we've gone through the plot, of aspects, whether it's, I know you've mentioned some of it, that some of it's better than others than compared to the previous game, but I'm talking about you as more personal preference, I guess you would say. Like for me, I don't think I ever used alchemy. I barely used alchemy.
I'm not really sure what would be my best and least favorite. I would say the least favorite aspect is kind of unless you're deciding to just role playing through the game. I would say the replay value. Mm-hmm. That, and one of the best aspects I would say is if you're playing at least on the PC, all the mods you can add to it.
Right.
On the Xbox version, I can't think of the graphics are great.
So you would definitely say that you enjoyed the PC version more than the Xbox one, mostly because of the mods?
Yeah, I would definitely say the mods definitely help add more to it. A lot of people have actually created whole dungeons and recreated the game to done some pretty great things with it, and then there are also some questionable things people have made mods for, but overall, as long as your computer can handle it, I would say the just for the mods, the PC version did a bit better on that. Just because of mods.
All right, very good. All right, Dungeon Master, we're about to head out of here, so why don't we get some plugs from you? What do you have going on, and where can people
Let's see. As of right now, I'm about to start Pokemon Black 2, a blind run of that, since I've never played it. I currently have Halo Anniversary going on, and a run-through of Command & Conquer Red Alert.
All right, and where can people find you on social media and all of that?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Dungeon Master. I'm trying to remember if it's at Dungeon Master 201 on Twitter. I don't have Well, I currently don't have a actual. I do have a Facebook, but I'm not on it as often as I am on Twitter. So
Sure.
you can find me on Twitter, occasionally making tweets, a lot more than Facebook. But you can go ahead and add me on both, and you can also find me on YouTube.
Great. All right. So, any final thoughts from you before we head out on the game?
On the game?
Yeah.
No, I think I've said everything that there is to say about Skyrim.
All right. Well, thank you again for taking the time out of your day to join me, and for everyone else, we'll catch you. Stay tuned for some more Jimboy Star podcast.